So, welcome today in this conversation. So my name is Jean Gazançon. I am the CEO of ARTE Generali, which is the dedicated art insurance unit of the Generali Group. The reason we are here today is to talk about art and the way art is made in Asia, but we did the choice to make it through data. In insurance, data is absolutely key, as you probably know. And with my colleagues, when we started the venture of ARTE Generali, we had the notion of data in mind. Because when you do art insurance, the difficulty, of course, it's the risks, how you control the risks, but it's also how to evaluate the art pieces. Evaluation process is a slow, traditionally a very slow and complex one, which costs significant amount of money, which is certainly worse for Picasso's and Rembrandt and very large pieces. But when you insure smaller pieces, it's too long, too slow, too complicated, and so we needed a more quantitative approach. And for that, we turned towards what was at the beginning, 6 years ago, really the capital of AI, Toronto in Canada, where we found the people of Wondeur AI, Sophie, and her partner, Olivier, who had developed an incredible tool in order to assess the value of art. And so we integrated the process and the database into our own underwriting system. And then we were so happy with it that we shared it also with the public via our app, which is not yet available in Hong Kong, but very soon. And then, ultimately, by working very closely with them, we discovered that they have a trove of information in the database. Who was buying art, where, when, the role of public institutions, the role of galleries, everything was mapped out in the database and was worth being studied carefully. And this is why today we are here in order to get those insights into the way the market is working in Asia for the Asian artists. I would like to thank all of them to be with us today, and to introduce you Coline, who is going to lead the talk. Coline, up to you.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you all for being here. So my name is Coline Milliard. I'm the executive editor at ARTE Basel, and we're here today to explore this question: what does it take to be a successful artist? Have you ever wondered, why some artists are more successful than others? Maybe you're an artist yourself, and you're looking to develop your career. Maybe you're a gallerist, you're nurturing artist practices, and you're trying to see, how can I take them to that next stage? Maybe you're a collector. You've been following artists from the very beginning, and you're like, where are they going now? So this is really the point of this panel today. Why are we doing this? Simply because understanding what makes up artistic success is really going deep into the roots of the whole art industry. How does the art world work? Well, if we answer this question today, and we're going to try really hard, then we can get a little bit under the hood of the art world. And really, we can extrapolate. What does it take to nurture an artist's career? Is there a formula? Can we bottle that formula? Is it different in Asia from the rest of the world? And really, I couldn't think of better people to take up this challenge and go and explore this question than the people we have assembled today. And I'd like to welcome them all. First of all, Isa Lorenzo, the founder and co-director of Silverlens Gallery in Manila, New York City. And also, I'd like to say, an artist or former artist, which is really relevant to the context of this conversation. So, Isa, thank you very, very much for being here with us today. Then we have Stefano Rabolli Pansera, who is a man of many talents, architect, curator, former House and Verse director, and today the director, founding director of the Kunsthalle Bangkok and of the Art Forest Khao in Thailand, which I hope many of you will get to visit. I'm certainly looking forward to my own visit as soon as I can do that. And those two projects are really new. The Kunsthalle opened just last year, and the forest 6 months ago, is that right? 2 months ago. 2 months ago. We've spoken so much about it, I feel older already, and all of this under the patronage of Marisa Kara-Varun, so a really wonderful project that I'm sure you will hear more about in the future. Now, last but certainly not least, and she's already been semi-introduced by Jean, is Sophie Perceval, co-founder, co-CEO of Wondeur AI, a company which looks at value drivers in the art world beyond prices. And I can't really express how important that is, because the art world, as we know, is a place where there's very little data. And the few data that we have traditionally is auction prices. And these have been used. You have a high auction price, that means you're a successful artist. Well, this is way more complicated than that, of course, and this is very much what you've been doing with Wondeur AI. So today, we have three very different perspectives. We have a gallerist really taking artists from people who fabricate objects, maybe who produce ideas, to people who end up shaping culture, and many of your artists are doing exactly that. We have someone who commissioned incredible projects, and I can't wait to share some of these slides because they are really mind-blowing. And finally, someone who's able to take the big picture. I understand that Wondeur at the moment is tracking 500,000 artists' trajectory. This is incredible. So really taking the long view. But before, perhaps to kind of set the scene, it'd be good to understand, what do we mean by success? What is success at the end of the day? Is it money? Is it, fame? So turning to you, Isa, how do you define success?
Why am I first?
You're first.
Success means many things. From our part of the world, we are a developing country. Success can mean, you have a roof over your head and food on the table, and your children can go to school. That's, I would say that from an artist's perspective or from a gallerist's perspective, we really see success in the artist when their community is uplifted, when their practice is recognized by the people they work with, and from that, it's able to transcend the art to cross over into life. That seems like such a general statement, but if any of you have been to the Philippines or Malaysia or Vietnam, Indonesia, we all travel as a pack, and usually this pack has a leader, and this leader is usually the artist. So I wanted that's for me how I would measure success, at least from where I come from.
So empowering artists to really become these leaders in the community.
Yes.
What about you, Stefano?
Well, the projects of Bangkok Kunsthalle and Khao Forest stem out of the intuition of the founder, Kunsthalle, whose focus is healing. She often recalls the experience of walking in nature, in a beautiful plot of nature that was heavily damaged by human agriculture, intensive agriculture, and she really felt the need to take care of this plot of land. And a similar experience happened with the building of Bangkok Kunsthalle, which used to be a former publishing house in the center of Bangkok that was destroyed by a fire more than 20 years ago. And again, Kunsthalle felt the need to take care and heal the building. And healing became really the focus of our mission. And I think that it's interesting to see the success of an artwork or the success of an artist based on the capacity of heal nature, to heal the building, and to produce artworks that really are able to open up new perspectives and new lives on the existing environments. So this is actually a very peculiar position that really stems out of Kunsthalle's vision and intuition.
So success as healing.
Healing.
That's a really important notion. So now, Sophie, I'd like you to give us the big picture. What does that mean for Wondeur AI? And here, I'm going to start with a slide which is really telling in itself, where you see or show us the 4 categories of artists, or the way you categorize artists in four parts. And what do they mean? So what does success look like for you from a Wondeur AI perspective?
I think I'll start by saying what it's not. And what success is not is short-term. It's short-term, whatever, visibility, short-term auction results, records, anything that doesn't last. And what we've endeavored to measure with this massive data experiment we've started now many years ago, 7 years ago, it's really measuring the long-lasting effect of connections and validations happening across the art market and the art world at large, including not-for-profit centers, including artist-run centers and residencies, including everyone in the network, that contributes to building an audience for an artist's work. And so the result of this massive, data collection exercise is that we were able to see that you have in our data massive number of artists. We're looking at 500,000. We have 250,000 published in our system right now, meaning we think we have enough data to be able to comment on their careers. More or less 80% of these artists are what we call emerging or underrepresented, meaning their resumes, their careers are very short, a very short list of shows. So their visibility is very limited. And then you have the 20 other persons, which are artists that have succeeded in bringing their work to the attention of a number of people, a diversity of stakeholders. So it could be, again, not-for-profit centers, artist-run centers, commercial gallery, sometimes museums, and gradually they build an audience based on that, and they reach the established category. And when you're an established artist, that means you're in the top 20% in the world, and then gradually you keep building on that, and sometimes you reach the celebrated category, which is the top 4%, and the star category is the top 2%.
Can you put numbers on that? So how many shows do you need to go to establish, roughly?
So basically, it's very complicated because a show is not equal to another show,
so
right?
You have a weighting.
The quality of the show is everything, in a way. And what we measure, so we don't give points, because that would be too simplistic, because the art world is a very dynamic and changing environment. So you have new places opening every year, you have places closing down, and so how do you keep track of the importance of each of these places? So basically we're mapping the network and all the connections that are happening between all these places and people behind those places. So the human connections and the human validations of the work and the support that the artists receive for the work. And it looks like that for the last 10 years. So it's like flights, trajectories, but it's actually what's happening. The art world is all about bringing a work from one place to the other, from an artist being discovered in a place and then programmed in another place by someone who discovered the place, the artist there. So it's all about exchanges, and it's all about artwork dissemination. So in terms of the number of exhibitions, that's what it looks like. So 1 million shows over 10 years, and that's how they are distributed. It's very different from the distribution of the art market based on auction, for example. Because here you can see, for an artist in Asia, you definitely have to look at Europe as well as Asia to develop your visibility, because that's a huge market in terms of institutions. There's a lot of places to show your work in Europe, and there's North America as well. But it's not just New York. Like you can see the density of those networks. So we're really looking at all of that, and again, success for us is long-term. So it's how you build up on top of the support you receive as an artist from so many different stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. So it's really this idea of the virtuous circle in a way. Like, it's not just talent, it's connections. It's showing your work. It's showing your work in places that other people are looking at, so they can then take your work and put it in their institution, in their magazine, in their collection, whatever it is. And in a way, that brings me back to you, Issa, because your story is a story of creating a network. For those who don't know, you, as an artist, studied in New York, and then went back to Manila. We're talking the early 2000s, and realized you didn't quite have the opportunities as an artist that you maybe needed. So you didn't wait around, you created your own. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, actually the system, when I got back to the Philippines in 2004, there was really no professional structure wherein you had artists working with galleries for representation and to really partner to build opportunity outside of the country or even outside of Manila. So I really wanted to start representing artists, and it took me 3 years to convince the first artist to join me.
So you didn't show your work as well? That was
I showed my work. I had 2 shows, and it was not a good experience.
Okay.
And I realized that there was just so much distrust between the dealers and the artists, because it was just not a healthy healthy environment. And you can ask me about that after this. This is not where we're supposed to talk about that. But the whole situation just really, I think, was hungry for a professional structure.
Right.
And I went to art school. At that time, I don't even know if there were any arts management courses or curatorial courses. And definitely in the Philippines, there was nothing like that. So I decided, I'm just going to build my own, which 21 years later, I feel like it was like the worst decision, but it was also the best decision because it gave me a really interesting life so far. So so what did I do? I had a big space. I rented a warehouse. The shows were running 4 or 5 weeks long. We were making publications. We were asking artists to commit to us, and likewise we would commit to them. We were, we didn't want to underprice or discount their work, and we wanted to create programs around what they did. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this was unheard of 21 years ago in Manila. So, but we stuck to it. We stuck to it, and in fact, just thinking about it. What we did from the very beginning was to create a mail-out every Tuesday morning, wherein everyone who would come into our system gives us their email, or comes into the gallery, gives us their email, and we would give them an update every week. And that was amazing because nobody was doing that. And to this day, we still do it. Every Tuesday, we release a mail out. Of course, much more condensed information at this point.
But do you remember what you were trying to achieve? What was the goal when you started Silverlens?
I wanted the art from the Philippines to be seen.
Right. Okay. And that continues, I understand.
Yeah, that is the North Star.
The North Star.
Well, now it's bigger. It's Southeast Asia and diaspora.
Right. And what's really fascinating from this example is that you started with an impulse which was purely, very personal, very intimate, linked to your own story. And then what you created is an incredible seedbed of opportunities for many, many artists over the years. So that's really a kind of almost a constructive displacement or something like that.
Yeah.
How do you reflect on that?
Every day is a new day. Every day you meet some people, you have something to share. They have something to share with you. I think I've learned by doing. All my life, I've learned by doing. I didn't go to school for this. There's no school that will teach you how to be a dealer or how to be a gallerist. I think anybody ever wakes up, starts from a child and thinks, I want to become an art dealer. Like, there is something else that pushes you in that direction.
But what is given you as well is the perspective of someone who's seen artists grow from the very beginning.
Because coming from, having studied in the Philippines and having studied in New York, I saw very much this East-West, very different ways of doing things, very different. And one is very structured, very organized. And the other one is quite chaotic, but also quite creative, vibrant, and rich. Mm-hmm. So how do you create, how do you mix, how do you choreograph a balance? Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest challenge that we have. Even more so now that we're balancing between Manila and New York. They're completely different ecosystems.
Mm-hmm. And we'll come back to New York. But maybe before going there, I'd like to really dive into actual practical example. So one is Yilan, whose photo you see, 2022, in Basel. Can you just tell us a little bit about that trajectory? And then we'll turn to Sophie to actually look at the data.
Yeah, Yilan. Yilan is an artist that we inherited from another gallery.
Okay.
So the other gallery is Valentine Willie Fine Art, who is the godfather of Southeast Asian contemporary. Okay. So Valentine had galleries in Malaysia, Manila, Bali, Singapore. Mm-hmm. And he closed. And when he closed, he called me and he said, please take Yilan. So I said, sure. We're friends. We like each other enough. I know her work. So we met, and Yilan said, okay, let's do this. Yilan Yi is a force of nature. If you have not met her, well, I'm sure if you have not met her, Well, when you do meet her, you will know what I'm talking about. She is an amazing human being, and she works primarily with multimedia, with photography, and found images, archives, textile, and she's been doing this for the last 30 years. And when we came into her practice, she was doing mostly photography. But she was also in the middle of a change, moving back from Kuala Lumpur to Kota Kinabalu, where her parents are from. And she started working with these weavers, okay, these stateless communities who are making these banigs, tikars, or mats, and trying to give them opportunities opportunities to make art and become artists, rather than to produce mass goods for tourists. So, as I was telling them yesterday, when I met Ilan, she kept telling me, I have no money. It's like, that's okay. She's like, nobody buys my work. No, it's okay. That's not your job. So we had the opportunity to present Ilan at Art Basel 2022. Was it just 2022? Yeah. No. Prior to that, her big change, her big break came. Well, everybody knows Ilan, but in terms of like going to the next level was when the Singapore Art Museum commissioned a 40-meter mat, 40-meter double-sided mat, one made of bamboo and the other one of pandanus, and it was hung in their stairwell. And that gave her the ambition that I can do this, So that was a turning point. That's about 5 years before this picture. And in this picture, Art Basel 2022, Giovanni Carmine,
curator of Unlimited, which is our sector for monumental artwork in Basel.
Yes, he said, can Ilan do something? And we had exactly the right work. This is 60 pieces of mats with woven tables into them.
And by the way, if you don't know Ilan's work, I invite you to look at the video that Art Basel shot with the weavers, which
Coline produced.
I didn't produce, I produced with a team, but that would be a fantastic introduction to the work if you don't know it. But now, okay, so this exhibition in Singapore was a turning point. There's always this moment, this kind of tilting point. I want to look at what it looks like from a data point of view, and that's over to you, Sophie.
Yeah, so if this is what a career looks like in our system. So we're basically mapping all of the shows that accumulate, We have a Tate Modern Group show in 2006. We have, all of these things, the ZKM, the Singapore Art Museum. All of that is happening before 2010. And then there's more acceleration. You can see the curve that goes up. And so these data points that we collect are really a representation of how much how the filtering system of the art world works. So you have to show there so that someone gets the idea that you can do a monumental piece. Would the commission or the presentation at Unlimited have happened without that Singapore piece, where there was evidence that this artist could handle scale, right?
So the amazing thing was she made two proposals to the Singapore Art Museum. One was the giant, the 40-meter mat, and the second was the 60 tables. So she made the 60 tables anyway. So she was ready for it. Yeah. When the opportunity came, she was ready.
I'm going to say that because it really resonates with something that happened in another conversation in Basel with another artist, Lubaina Himid, who will represent Britain in Venice next year. And when I asked for one tip, she said, be ready.
Yeah.
And I feel like artists like Ilan who have so much career, be ready. And then they will come, and they will come with your help. But looking at another artist of yours, Marta Atienza, and we're going to, I'm just going to look at this just to give you a flavor. Martha is an artist who works in many media, but video is really her thing, and this is on Times Square. Do you want to talk about this just a minute before we hand over?
This was in July 2024, so summer of last year. Martha was invited to present this work, Our Islands in Times Square, for their Midnight Moment. I don't know if any of you know the Midnight Moment, but it's an amazing exhibition. Every night in Times Square, New York, from 11:57 to midnight, all the screens become one artwork. So all of those advertisers, they turn it over to art every night of the year except
New Year's Eve.
Exactly. Except New Year's Eve. So these shows run for 1 month per artist. So this was, Martha has been quite known in the art world, but this moment really created energy, love, recognition for her with the people on her island. Because this happened, all of a sudden, people, the fishmonger knew who she was. The vegetable dealer knew who she was. She was being stopped on the beach. Are you Marta Atienza? It was, and she felt like, she's been working in that island for decades, and it's only now that they know who she is because of this, something that happened 7,000 miles away.
That's incredible. And now, again, let's look at the data. So over to you.
Yes, so what's interesting to us in the data, in the way we look at data, is what made that possible. Because if you think I'm an artist and I have to show in Times Square to be successful, it seems like an impossible to reach kind of goal. But actually, there are so many baby steps taking her there. And those steps include having a gallerist, showing in not-for-profits, showing in places in Europe, in the US, small places, residencies, not-for-profits, not always, big, shiny shows, but places that connect you. A good place, if you're ever wondering, if it's a good move for me as an artist to go there, is it going to take me elsewhere? Look at artists that have shown in that place. Look at where they've shown after. And if it took them anywhere else, or was that their last show 10 years ago and nothing happened then after that? These places that are sometimes very small are amazing connectors sometimes. There's one in Hong Kong that's amazing in that sense, that has a disproportionate influence compared to its size. It is Parasite. Typical of these places that connect networks and build bridges between art scenes and ecosystems. So, of course, before Times Square, there were a lot of steps.
But if I can just add to what Sophie said, I've been asking, because, I just know what I know. So I've been asking friends from all over what they think, an artist needs to become successful in Asia or elsewhere. But, and very interesting, they all said the same thing. Get a good dealer. You need to be represented by a gallery. And that gallery is going to be your champion, is going to be your advocate, is going to be your surrogate.
Absolutely. And it's also like the gallery that can often be the moment it lights the tinder and then kind of goes on. But I feel like, to turn to Stefano now, that some of your commission can also, from what we've been talking about, and I'm going to go to the next slide to give you a sense of what was cooking in Thailand under your supervision, and Marisa, the moment where you create something which is so extraordinary that it kind of changes things. So could you tell us a little bit about the commissioning process, the ambition there, and could your commission become those tipping points?
Yes, definitely use the right verb, cooking. It's cooking in our head, because food, farming is an essential part of our mission and our mandate. There are two elements that resonate with ISA. First of all, this is a geopolitical project. Before being an art institution, before being an architectural or a landscape project, the vision of Kunmarisa Sheravanon was to really add one point to the beautiful map that you designed. Thailand and Bangkok were still like in a dark area of the map, and we really hope to trigger and initiate a chain reaction to really reveal to the world what is already there, because there are phenomenal artists. Of course, we all know the most famous one, Apichatpong, Araya, Rierkrit, but the opportunity to live in Thailand gave me the chance to discover incredible talents. There are fantastic galleries that are really pioneers. Some of them are here already in the fair, and they're really very sophisticated and very experimental in the way they present artists. What is missing is some sort of like overall infrastructure and support to give the adequate voice to all these elements. And Kunmarisa's vision was really to have a double institution centered on healing. So we started with the vision of the Khao forest, which is approximately 180 kilometers from the center of Bangkok, in a beautiful area next to the largest natural park. And generally, when we do think about art in nature, we have a process which is based on a master plan, then architecture, then you do the landscape, and at the very end, you place the artworks in the strategic point. Kun Marisa and I decided to really do the opposite. We have untouched, unspoiled nature. The first thing that we do is to place the artworks. And it's really like quite almost discomforting, because we don't really know of an experiment where things were done the other way around. But we really wanted to embrace Thai spirit, which is about spontaneity and is about being brave. Mm-hmm. And we built basically the landscape around the artworks progressively. Then when we are really obliged, we do the architecture when it is really strictly necessary.
You add a little room.
A little. When, in a way, we have the architecture, the master plan emerges out of these steps. Mm. And the decisions to go for artists is really, again, based on this idea of healing. How can an artwork, a specific artwork, could help us to transform the landscape, to domesticate it, to facilitate actually the participation of the community. One of the first artists we thought of was Fujiko Nakaya, the artist that you saw with the beautiful installation of fog. And I have to say, this is like another incredible vision of Kun Marisa, because in many years, I don't know how many collectors worldwide could start an institution with the cloud. But we did it. And what was really fascinating is that this is like a very important artist in Japan. She's 92 years old. And we loved the beautiful, spectacular aspect of the fog, of course, which is some sort of land art 2.0. It is a form of land art where the artist does not impose a form onto the landscape, but she reveals the invisible forces that are around us, but we don't see. So every form of the fog is determined by the wind, by the change of temperature. And the artwork consists in really is a diagram of the forces that are acting in a certain environment. It is, in fact, not by chance that this is a work that is commissioned by a woman, and it is conceived by another woman.
But what it speaks to, and that really links to you as well as Isa, is this belief in the power of art, that really if you put art somewhere, something incredible is going to happen. I think this is something that also links all of us in this room, and it's not universally shared, but we are all champion and ambassadors of this idea that what happens if we put art? What happens if we put this incredible fog in the middle of the forest and then try to build an organization, an institution around it?
Yeah. And in a way, our responsibility, I feel, is really to create this openness for this miracle to happen. Mm-hmm. You know? So we need to resist the temptation of building too much, of relying on the known infrastructure, and to embrace the novelty that artists always envision and suggest. Mm-hmm. So this was, for example, what I consider probably a manifesto for us. It's a manifesto of a new form of land art. A beautiful situation is when the fog is not visible. You have a wonderful landscape that effectively is a timescape, because Fujiko Nakaya designed the land in such a way that it delays the dissipation of the fog.
So what maybe it's not clear, and clearly it wasn't clear to me, is that the actual land has been designed as well, right?
Oh,
it's
yes.
not just kind of position in existing terrain.
No, it was actually designed. Everything is a perfectly choreographed Japanese style, a Japanese method with immaculate precision. And I have to say that it was wonderful to see even like the encounter of two different cultures, Japanese one and the Thai one. And the mixture produced something wonderful. In fact, going back to the title of this conversation today, I think it is important even to talk about Asia as a plurality of cultures and mindsets. Mm-hmm. And the possibility to work with Fujiko Nakaya was enlightening for us to experience a completely different method of work, a completely different sensibility that really fits very well the Thai context. So the way we choose artists is really based upon this capability of healing the landscape, and by healing the landscape, we heal ourselves, hopefully. The second work is completely different, is much more recognizable in the iconic, is a Mammon by Louis Bourgeois, that for the first time was installed in a complete natural forest in the jungle. It was extremely complex to install it, because we had to flatten the ground. We need to make sure that the cranes and the infrastructure were safely routed onto the ground. And Kunmarisa had the suggestion to really build a rice field around the Mammon in order to really highlight the fact that it is really Southeast Asia and is really, again, a geopolitical operation. What is very interesting about the Mammon, is that there is something beautiful in the work of Louis Bourgeois. There is always an ambiguity that reveals the inner complexity of reality. We are male and female. The spider is a spider and mother, is a nest and a cage simultaneously. We are constantly this unresolved tension ourselves. Yet, when you see this spider outside the Mori Museum or outside Tate, you perceive this tension. It's a nest and a cage. When it is in the middle of nature, all of a sudden the negativity evaporates, and you just see like a bug in the grass, which changes completely the way it is perceived, as if the spider goes back home, and in its environment is not spooky anymore.
I just want to pick up on this idea of healing through art, because that really resonates with another project that few people are aware of at the moment, which is with you, Isa, and we'll come back, of course, Stefano, to the forest and to the Kunsthalle, but which is this. This is on Kopiat Island. This is a residency project, and what I'm trying to do here is to link healing through art, healing nature through art in those two incredible projects. So you started a residency, and understand you also will have residencies, very much part of it. Can you tell us about what's happening, what's cooking in Kopiat Island, which you're launching in June?
This is a very slow art project. It's about 7 years now. We're finally launching it this June. What it is, Kopiat is an island south of Mindanao, the southernmost part of the Philippines. And it was really sort of a conflict area in the 80s. But that has since resolved, and this island has become a beach resort. And the developer or the owner of the island really wanted to create a conversation with the elements. So what we pitched to them was, why don't we invite artists to come and then to work with materials on the island, making completely carbon neutral art. We bring nothing in, and they bring nothing out. So, for example, this is an artwork by Coline de San Jose, which is made of about 600 bamboo reeds, where she's cut notches into them. What you don't see, what you don't realize, is it's an instrument. It's a musical instrument, and it plays wind. So this is on the shore of one of the beaches. And there are 12, when we open in June, there will be about 12 quite large installations. And to the idea of healing, because artists have been going there, they have been discovering things that regular people don't. For example, there was one artist, Poklong Anading, who discovered a 200 or 400 meter net that had been suffocating coral on the seabed. So his project was to raise this net, to rehabilitate the coral, and to use the net, which also became substrate for larvae, positioning them so they become coral beds themselves, rehabilitating the coral. Another thing, because the trash is now being collected, a lot of that trash is now being turned into, upcycled into some kind of art. So the turtles have been coming back. And then the other thing that we found out is dugong. I don't know if you know what dugongs are, sea cows. They are they are averse to people. They don't like people at all. But one artist is planting seagrass very near the shore on sort of one of the more isolated parts of the island. And now the dugongs are coming back. So these are sort of these invisible or intangible, immeasurable effects that having artists come, they figure these things out.
And without being overly romantic, there is something about the artist being present, Marina, which creates something, and we'll see it also, of course, in Khao. So why is this idea of the residency maybe another moment or another trigger within the spider? I think Sophie wants to say something on this.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
No, you mentioned before about the importance and the mission of promoting artists from the Philippines and from Southeast Asia globally. For us, I have to say that the idea of the residence is because we have a double mandate. We believe that we can really constitute ourselves through the contact with the others. So when we think about promoting Thai artists, we do it twofold. We bring international artists to Thailand and we send Thai artists abroad. And this double movement is completely symmetrical and is fundamental. I often say that Thailand is more than a country. Thailand is a mindset. And when we invite artists to come to Thailand, we really invite them to really embrace Thai spirit, Thai culture, and to do something they could never do otherwise. So it is almost possible, the paradox of having international artists that do Thai art because they really embrace what they're doing. And this is actually what we experienced in the Kunsthalle in Bangkok. We really love the possibility that artists experience the place, which is this Blade Runner, tropical Blade Runner. Is a beautiful derelict building that we left for what it was. And we invite artists to insert their installations and exhibition per exhibition, floor by floor. We domesticate bit by bit the entire building. I say domestication because the restoration is a unilateral action. The architect or the designer imposes a vision onto a passive receptacle, which is the building. Domestication implies a symmetry. In fact, the building obliges artists to change their artworks. At the same time, the building is affected by the artworks themselves. And once the exhibition is over, there is the leftover, which are sometimes the infrastructures, air conditioning, electricity, sometimes traces of the previous artworks. And so basically, the curatorial program is the architectural project, and the curatorial program extends the palimpsest that the building already is. We had already like 6 exhibitions in the first year. And we now have a beautiful work that you can see in this image by Tan Chang. Since the name of the institution is Kunsthalle, Bangkok Kunsthalle, the vocation is about commissioning works. So we try to shift the paradigm from the product to the production. And when we invited Tan Chang Estate, is the most extraordinary painter from Thailand from the 20th century, the first one that arrives to abstraction. He died in 1991, and we were thinking, what could be production in this case? So we decided to restore the most important painting, this wonderful diptych that you can see in the image. And the duration of the exhibition is the duration of the restoration.
So it's live. People, if you're a visitor, you can literally see restorers working on it.
It's basically like an ongoing performance. You see like between 4 and 6 people every day repairing the paintings, again taking care of it. So it becomes like a metaphor of what we are doing with the buildings on our own. And it is really a wonderful operation, which is still conceptual, because at the conclusion of the exhibition, we are going to give back the painting to the estate. And nice. It's very nice. And in fact, there is no like speculative intent behind it. And we really hope that this beautiful painting is a masterpiece, will be able to be installed in a Thai institution. And it would be beautiful. This is an example of how the program of the Kunsthalle unfolds. And we love very much, we talked a lot with Marisa about the idea of growth. So by actually growing little by little, there are, of course, like practical concerns. But the beauty of discovering something new every time and having not a prefixed plan, but to be open to suggestions by artists that sometimes are very spontaneous, is so exciting and so unique. It's really a new architectural epistemology, in a way, a new form of producing knowledge.
And you follow the art, like you follow the art, follow the artist. And actually, just sorry, Sophie, you have a point, so please go ahead. And then we also look at some more data, because we have a very exciting sneak preview of Khao art coming up. But
I just thought it was really striking to hear you talk about the not-for-profit aspect of what you do. Residencies are one, and the long-term aspect. The time it takes to actually develop those places as places for inspiration and for production, and what it requires in terms of holding back on the financial outcome. And I think it's very hard sometimes for artists. We hear a lot of artists telling us, I need to sell my art, I need to have auction results, and they don't focus on the right stuff, which is production. Or when they do, they don't focus on showing. So it's a fine balance, but you need to produce, you need to show, you need to sell as well, because you need to sustain yourself, or you need to have a job that allows you to work, like a teaching, appointment or something that allows you to produce your work. But all of that is happening outside of the market. Everything we're describing here is not captured in art sales. Mm-hmm. It's something else that's building up. And for me, it's a very interesting approach to how success actually builds up on investing time in the work, investing time in connections, investing time in making your art visible and placing it in the right context. All of that is so important.
And it's so generative, and I guess you will see that perhaps this exhibition will do more for the legacy of Tang Chang, even than a flashy auction results. But just to, I think, coming also from an Art Basel perspective, it's not the market and the rest. It's everything together all at once, because there's also a tendency to create this false dichotomy. And we saw that the market, the galleries, are also the seed and the kind of the hunting head that are going to help us find new talent, put it on the map, then a curator picks it up, et cetera, et cetera.
And we saw it in the data too, and we discuss it. I mean, the galleries are the risk takers in that space, in this very complex world of art. Galleries are the ones that can move fast, that can make a decision based on a personal connection. And they can just give an artist a chance to do it, right? And to build this audience and to build this appreciation for the work. So we've seen it around the world. We've done a lot of research on galleries and the role of galleries. If you were to suppress commercial galleries today, there would be no museum, nothing would exist. Everything relies on the work done by commercial galleries as the foundational layer of discovery and nurturing artists and ecosystems. It's massive. And you are the most visible part. When people go to a new place, they look for the commercial galleries as the first entry point into an art ecosystem. The museum is easy usually. If there's one, it's a big building. And then the galleries, where are the galleries? And that's where people discover artists. And the art fairs are the accelerator for all of that.
Yes, exactly, where you have all the galleries together. But again, it's not an either or, it's never an either or, it's the and plus together. So staying with you, Sophie, because Stefano very kindly gave us a little sneak preview of what's coming up, two really exciting artists who have a slightly different career as well, and you've been looking into that. So maybe just, Stefano, a quick introduction on what Christophe Buchel is preparing for you, and then we can look at the data.
Yes. Christophe Buchel was one of the artists who came in residence to Bangkok. He loved it. And I'm not surprised, because all the artists in general, all the visitors that come to Thailand really end up loving the country, because there is an incredible energy that is happening there. And I had the privilege to work with Christophe Buchel for many years. He actually asked me to join Hauser & Wirth many years ago. And his work was so inspiring, radical, and shocking for many verses that I really thought it would have been wonderful to challenge him to come to Bangkok. And he's now preparing detailed plans that he will discuss in the next few weeks with Kunsthalle and with me. And we will aim to really get an entire new installation, which is a performative that involves the community, for the beginning of next year. And this even goes back to one point that for me is important to highlight. The Bangkok Kunsthalle is completely free, because we really want to engage with the local audience. And audience is always a plurality. We needed to attract the people that live in Yaowarat, which is Chinatown, our neighbors. We, for example, work with the ladies that sell the best duck noodles in Bangkok, which is at the corner of our building. And when we do the opening, we invite her to cook for our guests. We make sure that the caretaker that works in the building invites the neighbors to really create this expanded local community. We needed to invite the intellectuals of Bangkok and Thailand, we work with universities, we work with educational programs, and at the same time we need to appeal to the international crowd and that comes to ARTE Basel, Hong Kong, and hopefully extends the trip to Bangkok as well. This plurality is really what we needed to survive in order to really appear on the map that you suggested before. Mm-hmm. And Christophe is an artist that, in our opinion, could really create installations that had the gravitas to engage with the local context and with the international crowd at the same time. And this was actually the reason why we thought about it.
Mm-hmm. Alain Lowe, who spoke on a panel yesterday, talked about uber local and uber global, and that as a kind of modus operandi, and actually also talking about DIB Bangkok, which will open later this year. And it feels like this is a little bit of the magic formula. But over to you, Sophie. You've been looking at Christophe Boheld, who's a quite, for those who don't know the work, large installation. Sometimes you don't even know you're looking at art. He looks like a community center. He looks like a boat. He looks like a pawn shop. What is it? What are we looking at? What are we selling? What does this look like from a data point of view?
I think that's what's really interesting in that kind of career is that typical of artists that might, we were looking at the Venice Biennale, the last one, and we realized that 91% of artists that had a solo show in the pavilion, in the National Pavilion, so artists with quite a lot of visibility, had no auction results. It's like no visible market. So it doesn't mean they don't have a market, but it's just 91%, right? So that's typical. It's an artist who's not creating for the market, but still he had a gallery. There was a very powerful gallery fueling his career. And that's really interesting to not build an opposition, as you were saying, Coline. I think it's an idea that's difficult to kill, this idea that you're either commercial or radical as an artist. No, even if you're a radical artist like Christophe Buchot, you need a commercial gallery. And the commercial gallery is going to make your work move towards a different audience and is going to cross-pollinate with everything else. So I think it's very typical when you look at his career. You will see all the little, the list of places, the Kunsthalle, there's many there, but you can see for how long he was an established artist, so in the top 20% in the world, so a lot of artists, it's a big crowd, it's like 40,000 artists in the world, 50,000 artists in the world. He was in that category until the early 2000s, where he really popped into the celebrated and star in our system in terms of, getting that massive, visibility. And, ZKM and the Dichternhallen and Swiss Institute and all of this is just adding to each other. And it becomes a self-feeding kind of dynamic. What's really interesting in those elements and how they nurture each other is that there's a moment in time in a career where art becomes part of culture, where you're part of your local culture, but then you're part of a global culture. And the story of your time could not be told without this work, Mm-hmm. And so that's where there's usually a tipping point where this work is shared more and more in international institutions. And I think that's an ambition that should be the ambition of every artist to be part of that conversation and part of those who are necessary to tell the story of our time, of today, this year, 2025, right? So I think it's a very interesting career because it's not going like this, but it's really building up, but in such a steady way, and it's building on many legs. The commercial, the not-for-profit, the museums, the commissions, the ephemeral. A lot of works are ephemeral in what he has been building, and the long term.
And what's really striking, and here I'm going to turn to you, Isa, is that it seems that we can't get rid of this idea of being global. And the title of this panel was How to Succeed as an Artist in Asia. And is it different to do it here than in the rest of the world? And that, Isa, I wanted to have your take on that.
Yeah, this is where I pull up my notes. So, number one, you need to be represented by a gallery. You need to, because the gallery will keep showing your work, on their website, on their social media. Next, it needs to be by a good gallery. So you look at the program, you check the artist roster, you see if your work resonates with theirs. You set an appointment with a director of the gallery or somebody who works in the gallery. You look for somebody already in the gallery who can make an introduction to the decision maker in that gallery. Oftentimes, we get our artists from our own artists' recommendations because they know if they recommend somebody, that person will have the legs and the ambition and the discipline to do it full time. Next is there needs to be a studio practice, and you need to work closely with your gallerist to achieve the shared goals of your studio. It's not always an exhibition, it's not always a residency. It's many things. So for us, we spend, we meet with our artists constantly, but we really do sit down with them and talk about, okay, what are we doing this year? What do you want to achieve? How are we going to do this? And in fact, here in Hong Kong, I'm meeting with 3 artists today and tomorrow. Learn to talk to people. You need to show up. You need to network. You need to know who people are. And you have to be nice. You need to be nice about it. You cannot be transactional. Because if you're transactional, the art world is as small as this glass. So once the word is out that you are not a nice person, believe me, all the dealers, we're all friends. We all talk to each other. You need a social media presence. And yeah, you need to, again, treat people well. Treat people well.
I love this idea of the glass as a representation of the art world. That's a fantastic way of, and we see it. We see it as we grow older, as we hang in there for longer. We realize that we know more and more and more people. And there is again, like the art market may sometimes have a bit of a bad rep. The idea of networking also seems to have a bit of a bad rep because it seems like you're doing it in a very kind of striving way, which is not very nice. But another way to look at it is actually, it's to meet like-minded people.
Yeah.
I mean, we had that. We had breakfast yesterday. I think maybe we'll see in the future an interesting Manila-Bangkok connection that might, another point on the map. And that happened because of this panel. That happened because of this conversation and this breakfast.
I think also for Southeast Asia, well, I don't know about North Asia, but Southeast Asia, we're very sensitive people. We're very gentle people. We're warm. We're sensitive. So people take things, if there's rejection, they take it personally. Don't take things personally. I think there needs to be a separation between your personal life and your personal friends, and your professional life and your professional friends. I cannot stress this anymore. I mean, I have many, many professional friends, and we are all, we all have a passport in the country called art. But we are not necessarily personal friends. Some become personal friends over the years, but I think that the art world and artists, you also have to realize that, when somebody rejects you, it doesn't mean that it's a no. It just means maybe not now, not yet. Show me in a year. Show me when you have something interesting, right? So that's about sensitivity in Southeast Asia.
I was hoping for practical tips. I don't think I was expecting that level of granularity. That's a wonderful way to finish. Unfortunately, we won't have time for questions, but I want to really thank you all. Thank you, Isa, Stefano, Sophie. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, ARTE Generali, and of course, all the Art Basel team and staff that help us make this possible. Thank you all for coming. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.